joining us now with reaction to President Trump's resolute leadership and decision not to strike Iran, as well as the growing tensions in the Middle East. Fox Business national security and foreign policy analyst, Dr. Walid Phares. Great to see you, Doctor. So what do you make of the decision to call off the strike?
Well, that decision basically was a decision not to engage in much greater escalation. And that's what makes it very important. I mean, look, the big picture was, David, that the Iranians were doing many things. They were ordering their allies in Yemen to send their drones, military drones, into Saudi Arabia. They have been responsible, allegedly, for the attacks against the four ships in front of the coast of the UAE, and more in Iraq and more in Syria. We deployed. So this incident that took place is not isolated. It's an Iranian decision, as I think the report tried to intimate to, that we, as Iranians, we're going to attack you and then invite you to attack us back. What would that do? It would force a current negotiations between the Iranians and the United States, which is not something that we are ready for, because we don't want to negotiate from a position of weakness.
So we heard from Kevin Corke's report that the Iranians were trying to draw us into confrontation. You agree with that?
I do agree with that because of the context. I mean, we are deploying, they are deploying, one incident here, and then you have what we know as the rules of engagement, meaning if we hit back against them, what is it that they're going to do the next day? They're going to hit back against us. It may be in Syria, it may be in Iraq, it may be in Yemen, and then we will be compelled to hit back against them, and that would be a confrontation not on our timing.
You know, I know politics isn't your beat, but it is extraordinary how yesterday Democrats were calling the president a warmonger, and today they're saying he was chicken for not hitting Iran. I mean, you know, it's extraordinary, the double standards that are in place within the course of 24 hours.
That's right. These are politics. But remember that the same president ordered a successful strike against an airport, a military airport in Syria under Assad, responsible for the use of chemical weapons. So that is no chicken at all.
Well, and that was the red line in the sand. There, yesterday, you listened very carefully what the president was saying about the Iranian attack on our drone. There was no talk of a retaliatory attack. There was no talk of a red line. In fact, the president was willing to give them some space in terms of suggesting it might have been a mistake. So, I mean, there wasn't a red line, whereas in Syria, where there clearly was, Syria stepped over that red line and they were met with tomahawks. This is not a president who's afraid to pull the trigger.
Not at all. I mean, he was very clear. He made it very, very clear that had there been American killed, believe me, he would have responded with all the strength we have. But he and his team are dealing with a much bigger issue. It's not one drone. There could be many drones. It's not one Iranian attack. There could be, and I think there will be, another Iranian attempt against us.
Now, even though the Europeans have been very duplicitous, as they always have with regard to their dealings with Iran, because they're more interested in business than they are in our national security interests, or the world's for that matter, still, this gives the president a real leg up in terms of putting together a united coalition against Iran, doesn't it?
Yes, and the first step will be, as you just mentioned, at the Security Council. I mean, we were the ones who have been attacked. We were the ones who said we're not going to counterattack. We take the case to the Security Council. It's going to really put a pressure on who this time? On the Russians. And we're going to have a much wider coalition supporting us in this case. I think that decision not to retaliate immediately is very intelligent, but at the same time, we are doing many things. We are actually cutting off Iran from Iraq into Syria into Lebanon. This is the real stuff happening in those areas.
Well, you say it's intelligent. It's also presidential, by the way. Another word that the mainstream media doesn't use much with President Trump. But there's another area of the world that it might help us with.